think that the work I do kind of intertwines everything, mind, body, and spirit, taking a holistic approach. When you're in a coaching practice, kind of like what I do, a lot of times we try to focus on things that that are blocking us from moving forward and advancing. And so my primary focus is on identifying those blocks and helping people to overcome them. And a lot of times within the network, we find that there are people that also have different businesses that also help people overcome those things. So my job kind of is like a networker to integrate those things and put people in contact with the right people to get what they want.
Gotcha. What are the typical struggles that your clients have?
I'm sorry, the typical circles?
Typical struggles and challenges that your clients express.
I would say reaching the public the way that they want to. That seems to be a big one. Understanding what venues to take, different practices and approaches, and also how people interact with the public. I think that there are a lot of people that do different types of work or own small businesses, and they're really just not sure how to get their image out there and convey their message in such a way that would entice or invite other people into looking at their product or service. And so the biggest struggle that I see with, especially the women that I work with, is just identifying what those challenges are and developing a plan to overcome that, whether that be like fear of public speaking, a fear of putting their thoughts onto paper, or their image.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the number one challenge that coaches have and small business owners have is marketing. And it's not, I don't think it's a shortage of coming up with the right ideas for marketing. It's about they don't know what to focus on, what's going to give them results and what's not going to give them results. That's what I've noticed.
Right.
So for your own coaching practice, what has worked really well for you in terms of, you seem pretty successful in terms of you have a solid amount of clients. That's what it seems like based on what you're talking about. What has worked for you in terms of attracting clients?
Just being authentic, and knowing who you are authentically and ultimately where you want to go. I mean, I'm constantly evolving and changing and learning more about myself. Every day is a new opportunity to identify where I want to go to next, and then it's just figuring out what the next best step is, and keeping the ultimate vision in mind. But I think when we are genuine and authentic, and we can own ourselves and our past and our story, and we're really showing that we are passionate, that authenticity conveys through every bit of work that we do. And it conveys through in person or an email or over the phone. And people, in my experience, really want to feel like they are connected and that they are being heard and felt and understood. And I try and make it a point to carve out that time and give people that attention that they need in order to be able to reach those goals. I know if I'm going to buy a product or if I'm going to buy a service, then I want to feel ultimately good about that. But if I'm working with somebody on a deep, intimate connection, whether that be through writing a blog piece or taking pictures or researching something or working on an herbal medicine for someone, it's really important for me to just be authentically present in that moment and be okay with making mistakes too throughout that process and learning from those.
Right. That's great. I totally agree with that. The people want to work with you if they like you, if they connect with you, and there's a real genuine bond between the two of you. And without that, it's really hard to get clients, because it has to be based in a relationship where you like working with your coach. And without that,
right,
it's really hard to get any clients.
Well, I think that a lot of times people really want, I hear a lot of people, men and women both say, like, I really want to be a business owner. I really want to be an entrepreneur. I really want to, change the world, but they're not really 100% like committed or believe in either in themselves or the message that they're conveying or the product that they're trying to push. And so that message is conveyed and people can pick up on that if you're not being authentic and genuine in what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing, is figure out like what are you most passionate about, and then focus on that and develop that, and be okay with not being perfect in that process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are people reaching out to, like, you're being authentic in what ways are you being authentic? Like, are you being authentic while you're speaking on stage, or is it like out in public talking to people, or on your blog? I mean, I'm sure it's all these things, but what tends to be the medium that people reach out to you on, and how do they hear about you?
I think that, like with my Instagram, when I get DMs from people, or even through email, or when I'm out doing a public presentation, creating an awareness for adults with disabilities, like, people want to see that you have struggles too, and that you are also facing challenges, and that you're also a constant work in progress, and that you maybe don't have it all figured out, but you're constantly learning and evolving and adapting. And I think that that's probably one of the most important factors, is that I know that I'm a constant work in progress, and I never stop. And I allow myself to receive feedback and criticism, and that has helped me to grow, because when I'm talking to other people, I'm present in that moment, but I'm also very aware that this is an experience that I can learn from, whether that be positive or negative, or even turning a negative into a positive. And I think that that's probably like one of the most important factors for me, is that I realize that I have to acknowledge the failures as well as the strengths, because the failures really just create more opportunities for us to develop strengths we didn't even know that we had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like your strength is that you're willing to be vulnerable, and you actively seek out vulnerability, compared to some other coaches and experts who try to present themselves in this image of like they're this big shot person who's been successful all their lives, and they have never made mistakes, and they're not able to make mistakes. And it's for me, like, when I see someone who's talking about, that they're just extremely successful and they have never had any challenges, it's hard to trust that person as much as I would trust someone
Right.
authentic and vulnerable.
Right. I mean, not all of us are really fortunate to come from, really happy childhoods or happy homes. And I think that those people that have been the most vulnerable and have been knocked down more often than not, are survivors, and they're fighters. And that's so attractive to me about people, is that they have that fighting spirit. And those are the people that far surpass, like, even where I'm at and what I'm doing. I've been so fortunate to meet people that have taken what life has handed them and created something really beautiful and magnificent with that. And that's inspiring to me, because I struggle with things just like everybody else, but I want to turn my struggle into a progress, and I want to be able to show that to people, but also not like dwelling on the negative. And I think that's where a lot of us get caught up, that we all have real life stuff that happens to us, and it's not staying stuck in that rut, and understanding that really failure is an opportunity for us to reevaluate and realign and push ourselves towards reaching the next set of goals. And so in my practice, I really try and focus on it, being okay with making mistakes and taking a detour, because sometimes those detours are what put us right where we need to be when we need to be at.
Definitely. I totally agree 100% with what you're saying. And speaking of failures and mistakes, what has not worked in terms of marketing? What have you done that just hasn't given you any results, or just hasn't really shown up in the way that you've wanted to? What are some of your marketing failures?
Oh man, I could say like trying to copy what other people have done. When I think a lot of us probably follow or read or look up to other speakers and coaches and motivators who have, been in this practice for a long number of years, and we're looking at their Instagram, we're looking at their YouTube, we're looking at their Facebook pages, and following them on different social media accounts. And we're seeing these different hashtags that they're using. We're watching their body language, their posture, their poise, their confidence. And there again, like I have found myself like trying to recreate and see, okay, well, this is what works for them. Let me try and implement that into something that I'm doing, but I may not have the same results. And I think that comes back to me not owning it and it not being authentically who and how I am. And when we try and spin something, I think that the people who are watching this can pick up on that and they sense that. And so I would rather, you know, be honest about that and be like, man, I tried these hashtags on my Instagram. They totally failed me, you know. But when I'm passionate about it and I'm using keywords or objectives, or I'm writing a blog piece or helping someone go through an experience, and I'm present in that moment and using keywords and phrases from my own experience, I see that the results are much different than trying to fabricate or copy what someone else has done. And I think that that's important.
I love that so much. That's great. Like, what works for you, what works for someone else might not work for you. It's okay to get inspiration from other coaches and other influencers, but the exact thing that they're doing is probably not going to work for you, because you need to be unique and authentic and really own what you do, as you say. So
yeah,
I love your perspective. I love where you're coming from. It's all great stuff.
Well, we see a lot of, you know, coaches and motivational speakers, and I mean, I'm small time. I don't have like hundreds of thousands of followers or anything of that nature. But when I think about myself long term, I think this is what I ultimately want to have. But in order to get there, I have to continue to really just be myself and be real and raw and relevant. And we see so many like cookie cutter speakers or motivational coaches that have went through this program or this certification or read this book or followed that persona. And it's very uniform. And the ones that are like standing out and breaking the mold are the ones who are innovators, and they're willing to make mistakes, and they're willing to say, you know, I tried this and it didn't work, and I'm still going to be me and do my own thing. Like Gary Vee, he's a great motivational speaker. Yeah. You know, he cusses like a sailor, and I really enjoy that, you know, because I think, wow, this guy has got it. Like, he's on point. He's not afraid to be unapologetically himself, and he's owning his shit, you know. And I'm like, that's so important, because I can relate to somebody that's really owning it versus someone who I'm not sure is.
Right. When I think of, like, he really embodies like hard work and persistency and determination unlike anyone else I know. And you can tell he's coming from a really authentic place. He always shares his stories about, you know, his wine business when he was a teenager, and getting his entrepreneurship experience through that. And it's not something that you can really, that he's clearly not copying that from anyone else. It's an authentic story that he's sharing that only he can share.